5, and all anyone can talk about is the drama that went on the set of It Ends With Us. While the film was an adaptation of Colleen Hoover's popular novel of the same name, starring two of the biggest names in Hollywood today, it gained popularity more so for something that went on behind the scenes. That's right, we're talking about the drama that unfolded in 2025 when Blake Lively came at Justin Baldoni guns blazing. But guess what? Baldoni fired back, and now it looks like it'll be a cold day in hell when Lively's career recovers from what Baldoni and his lawyer, Brian Friedman, have done to her. Here are the details. Rumors of bad blood on the set of It Ends With Us. Have you ever heard of Book Talk? It's a sub-community on TikTok where they talk about, well, books. And on Book Talk, between 2020 and 2022, there was hardly a book more widely discussed than It Ends With Us. Hoover claimed that the book draws on inspiration from a very important woman in her life, her mother. While the author's known for tackling sensitive subjects in her work, interplaying them with romance, It Ends With Us did it more beautifully than any of her other work. Maybe that's why it became a hyped-up subject on Book Talk. In any case, fan edits started pouring in almost immediately, with fans picking their favorite characters to play the leading characters in the novel. This was all something that Justin Baldoni observed quietly from a distance, as he'd already acquired the rights to develop It Ends With Us into a film. Baldoni had acquired the rights pretty early on. Hoover had published her work in 2016, and Baldoni swooped in around 2019. Most of us here know Baldoni as the hunk from Jane the Virgin, but he's also a celebrated director and has his own production company, Wayfarer Studios. Anyway, Baldoni got to make the final call on who would be cast, and he picked Blake Lively to be the star, Lily Bloom. Now, was this a celebrated choice? It was met with lukewarm reception by the Book Talk community, who felt like there were better options. Nonetheless, it wasn't about who played Lily Bloom, but how well they played her. Blake got the seal of approval, and fans were thrilled when Baldoni announced he'd be taking on the role of Ryle himself. We could talk about the other characters and actors from the novel and later the film, but that's not necessarily instrumental. You see, all you need to focus on are these two actors, because while It Ends With Us became a commercial success, it was what went on between them that caused the greatest stir. Production for the film was delayed quite a bit, but then again, all of Hollywood shut down in 2022 during the SAG strikes. This meant that the team behind It Ends With Us got more time to work out the kinks in the film. The movie was eventually released in 2024 and became a commercial success, even though it was rated poorly by critics. In particular, they claimed that the script didn't do the novel justice, and no one really had a lot of positive things to say about Lively either. Interestingly, her off-screen behavior was what ticked people off more than her portrayal on screen. For instance, Lively became media fodder in August and September 2024 during the film's promotional release. Again, Hoover discusses sensitive issues in her work, and It Ends With Us focused on subject matters such as domestic violence. While many fans expected Lively and the rest of the cast to take a more proactive approach when it came to actually promoting relief for DV survivors, that seemed to be the last thing on their minds. Lively herself was accused of riding the high from the promotional tour for the movie to promote her new hair care line. But there was one actor who openly supported DV charities, raised awareness on social media, and went the whole 9 yards. That was Justin Baldoni. Quite quickly, Baldoni became an internet superhero, while Lively was criticized for her callous attitude towards the subject matter. This is something important to remember, because one of the many things that Lively's team has accused Baldoni of doing was sabotaging her image. This seemed to be one example of it. Breadcrumbing. Blake Lively quickly revealed to tabloid magazines that something was amiss between the leading co-stars. This speculation went on and on into the promotional tour, where internet sleuths noted that Baldoni wouldn't pose with the rest of the cast. He'd be in a group picture or two, but never alone with Blake. However, Blake would take pictures with just about every castmate except Baldoni, who doubled as the director of the film. This was something internet sleuths knew they had to do more digging into. Sooner rather than later, more insider sources revealed that there'd been a massive falling out on set between Baldoni and Lively, and it somehow involved Ryan Reynolds, Lively's husband, as well. This was enough to shift the focus onto the film that wasn't getting stellar reviews at this point. Here's where the second controversy against Lively comes in. She's been accused by Baldoni and his team of breadcrumbing. This word and social media technique is an invention of the 21st century. Essentially, celebrities who know that their lives are being examined under the microscope often intentionally leave hypothetical breadcrumbs behind for internet sleuths to pick up on. In this case, Lively and every other castmate from the film, including the author, hadn't followed Baldoni. He hadn't followed them back, but it was obvious that it was because they didn't want him there. Next came promotional interviews, where it seemed like the only person who had something good to say about his co-stars was Justin Baldoni. He called Blake a powerhouse and a force in his interviews, crediting her for the work she put into the film as one of the producers. Baldoni would always acknowledge Lively's contributions, but we can't say the same about her. Not just her, actually, but even Jenny Slate slyly sidestepped a question about how it felt to work with Baldoni. It seemed clear that it was everyone against Baldoni, but why? All the things Blake Lively accused Justin Baldoni of. It soon became quite clear why the rest of the castmates didn't interact with Baldoni. In January 2025, Lively complained that Baldoni, along with Jamie Heath, the principal producer of the film, had curated a hostile work environment against her after she raised concerns about their behavior. What Lively was allegedly referring to here was a meeting between her, Baldoni, Heath, and Reynolds, where the couple produced a 30-point list of demands that had to be met if Lively was to come back to production. Of the many things that Lively claimed had happened in the short time since production had begun, she alleged that Baldoni would linger on intimate scenes between the two unnecessarily. He would make her feel uncomfortable by talking about their intimate lives. He fat-shamed her. He had a friend of his play the OBGYN in the film with a scene with Lively in it. He would walk in on her changing. He would stare at her while she was breastfeeding, and the list is honestly endless. Likewise, she also complained that Heath had shown her a video of his naked wife while she was giving birth, completely unprompted. With Reynolds leading the conversation, the couple claimed that the only way Lively would be coming back to work would be if Baldoni and Heath kept their distance from her and an intimacy coach was present at all times. Now, there was an intimacy coach on set for production, but Lively claimed that he was sent away for most scenes. In the aftermath of that heated conversation, Baldoni hired a crisis management manager because he knew the fallout from insider sources revealing details here would be catastrophic. Lively had made her list of demands and shared her grievances on set, but after the movie was released, she decided to go public with them. Bear in mind here that she still hadn't filed a lawsuit against Baldoni. This was preemptive, according to her lawyers, because Baldoni had already embarked on a negative course of action to tarnish her reputation with social media heroism. In any case, the news quickly caught on, and Lively then accused Baldoni's production house, Wayfarer Studios, of conspiring against her because she'd made her troubles known. She claimed that the people who worked with Baldoni had exchanged text messages wherein they talked about destroying Lively's career. Now, these are some pretty serious allegations, especially the sexual harassment and smear campaign allegations against Baldoni. However, when the world turned to him for comment, it seemed like he'd just shut off. Baldoni took longer than what most people would consider necessary to respond, even if it was to deny the allegations, and public opinion was heavily skewed in Blake's favor. To her credit, she did release some of the text messages she'd talked about, showing that she was being discussed in a negative light. Eventually, the New York Times decided to write a piece on Lively's allegations, a deep dive into what went on behind the scenes. The deep dive was allegedly skewed in Blake's favor, and that was when Baldoni decided he had to respond. With entertainment lawyer Brian Friedman in tow, he announced that he would be suing the New York Times for producing a damning article against him that was based on anything but facts. Through Friedman, Baldoni also announced that he was denying Lively's accusations. The New York Times claimed they'd done their due diligence given the information they had, and that nothing in their article was fictional. They might have been personal accounts and perspectives, but it wasn't like they just made it all up themselves. In all honesty, it seemed like a stretch for the lawsuit to go anywhere, but what it did do was prompt Lively and her team to turn their allegations into a full-blown suit. That's right, the suit came after Baldoni announced he was filing one against the publication house. The countersuit came shortly thereafter, and right now, Justin Baldoni is suing Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds for $400 million. That's the catastrophic sum that Friedman claims is only fair for the damage that the couple have caused to his client. You have to remember that Hollywood takes allegations such as Blake's very seriously in the 21st century. Baldoni was immediately dropped by his talent agency. An advocacy award he was supposed to receive for his work on raising awareness against DV was rescinded, and everything just came crashing down like a house of cards. Through it all, because Blake's allegations were earth-shattering, she'd gained a lot of support online and from the entertainment industry. Her co-stars from Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants released a statement stating that they supported her wholeheartedly. Sony TV congratulated her for having the courage to speak out, and even Colleen Hoover praised Lively for spitting facts. It seems like it was the whole world against Baldoni, but he had something to show everyone, and it changed everything. Baldoni's response and the shifting tides. Brian Friedman claimed that Baldoni wouldn't just be releasing a statement, but that the entire legal team was working on creating an entire website dedicated to the evidence they had that not only refuted Lively's claims, but also showed that she was the problem in the first place. One of Lively's claims was that Baldoni would overexert himself in intimate scenes with her long after they'd yelled cut. She claimed that in one particular instance, the slow dancing scene, he rubbed his lips against her ear and then down her neck, telling her that she smelled good, and this was not a part of the scene. However, Baldoni claimed that it wasn't what Lively was making it out to be, and to substantiate his claim, he released a series of outtakes from that scene. Lively's legal team acknowledged that these outtakes were not photoshopped or edited in any way. Here's what the outtake showed. Baldoni rubs his nose against Lively's ear, telling her that she smells great, and Lively comments, implying that he's lying because she just had her spray tan done. He asks her if he's getting hair all over her, and she replies that she's probably getting spray tan on him. Fans claim that while the video did show the two of them flirting, it was just that. Harmless flirting between co-stars who were cast as love interests and obviously developed a bond while filming. How their spouses felt about that bond is another story, and we'll dive into how it forced Ryan Reynolds to play his hand in just a second here. Lively's team claimed that it was obvious that Blake was just coping with the uncomfortableness the best way she could. They claimed that Baldoni's outtakes proved nothing. But what about the text messages? That's right, Baldoni released everything, including extended text messages from the ones that Lively displayed, proving that she had edited them to fit her narrative. The actual conversation showed that no ill intent was ever displayed against Lively, although you could argue that it was clear no one really liked her that much. In the text messages that he sent Lively, it was clear there was flirtation going on both ends. In one instance, Baldoni told his co-star that he enjoyed seeing her vulnerability, which led to a more NSFW joke sooner than later. This is just one of several examples that Friedman claimed proved that Baldoni wasn't the instigator in any sense. Likewise, Baldoni's team also released a long-winded essay Lively had sent Wayfarer Studios, urging them to use her script over his. Apparently, Lively tried to push her version to the point that she had Reynolds and her celebrity friends approach Baldoni, telling him that her script was the better one. In the text she sent Wayfarer, she referred to herself as Khaleesi and her powerful friends as her dragons. She urged Baldoni to use her script, and in return she'd use her power and influence, her dragons, to help him whenever the time called for it. Did they go with her script or Baldoni's? Here's the thing. All scripts have to be screen tested to ensure that the best commercial version is being picked. In this case, Baldoni released evidence that proved the test audience preferred his version over hers. His documents also showed that more men in the screening preferred Lively's version than his, which was not the target demographic per se for It Ends With Us. Naturally, this wasn't something that Lively took too well, and this is where Reynolds comes in. One of the most iconic scenes from the film was the rooftop scene, a scene that Book Talk was afraid would be messed up in the film adaptation. While the scene didn't live up to the novel standards, it was pretty okay for the most part. While discussing the scene, Lively was sure to credit the guy who directed it. Not Justin Baldoni, but her husband, Ryan. Basically, he'd made sure that his version of the scene, his script, and his cinematography were followed. Lively claimed that she was an equal participant in his projects, and the two enjoyed working together. But this wasn't Reynolds' project at all. Why was he so heavily involved? That's something Baldoni and his team couldn't figure out either. On that note, one of the things Lively and Co. used to substantiate their lawsuit against Baldoni was that he agreed to the 30-point demand list. This showed that he acknowledged that such grievances were valid. However, in his evidence, Baldoni pointed out that it was a 17-point list and that he didn't agree to any of it. Hence, the crisis management manager is called in. Another thing that Lively complained of was the fact that the intimacy coordinator wasn't on set at all times and that Baldoni made sure of it whenever he had scenes with Lively. Do you know what disproves this? The intimacy coordinator's own timesheet. One by one, everything came crumbling down. Baldoni then revealed that he'd suffered way more than what he had initially let on because of Lively. During the film's premiere, Baldoni and his guests were seated in the basement while Lively and her audience enjoyed the film upstairs. Baldoni also claimed that Lively had accused him of taking over the project by refusing to give her PGA credits, which would have allowed her to enter the running for Best Producer categories. However, Lively was only one of the producers and Baldoni refused to budge on this. That's when she sent him another text claiming that any ounce of respect she had for him was gone. For fans, this seemed like Lively was just so used to getting her way, with her dragons or otherwise, that she couldn't comprehend the word no. On that note, Shane Reed, the editor for the film, was commissioned by Lively and Reynolds to produce a second edit of the film. This was the one that Lively wanted, and the one that she pushed for when the film was being released. All in all, Lively made sure that the entire project was about her and no one else, and Baldoni proved it. Oh, and about the actor who played the OBGYN. Someone Lively claimed was a friend of Baldoni's. He had played the role specifically to taunt her. Turns out he's a trained Shakespearean actor who just so happens to be a friend of Baldoni's. Friedman argued that it was no different than Lively having her sister, not a trained actor, in the film too. If anything, he was the one who didn't play favorites here. Ryan Reynolds' role and Why It Ends With Us cast sided with Blake Lively. But two things don't make sense even with Baldoni's evidence being released. One, why was Reynolds such a huge part in this mess? And two, why did everyone on It Ends With Us side with Lively? Starting with Reynolds' role here, it isn't too far-fetched for the husband of the leading lady to come over on set, cheer her on, and give input if asked because of his professional career too. That's fine. What wasn't fine was that Reynolds would try to steamroll production. Internet sleuths believe that the person in Baldoni's papers who kept demanding to see the dailies of the film was Reynolds. The messages between his wife and Baldoni were flirtatious, and Reynolds started to get on edge. The best way he could handle the situation was insert himself everywhere in it. This next part is based on speculation, yet backed by facts. So let's take an example here. Lively accused Baldoni of fat-shaming her. However, in his evidence, Baldoni proves that he had a back injury some months ago and needed to weight train to lift just about anything. He didn't sidestep Lively and discussed her weight with her manager directly. She was in on the conversation, and he made it clear repeatedly that he was only asking because he needed to know how much to train. To this end, and it's documented in text messages that have since been released, Lively claims that she felt like she needed to lose weight. Baldoni then claims that that'd be the last thing she would ever have to worry about, and he ensured that he would try whatever it took to take away her insecurities. To this, Lively replied that the movie needed a certain aesthetic and that she and Baldoni needed to fit it. This ties into the criticism she received during the promotional tour, where instead of advocating for survivors of domestic violence, she suggested everyone come to the premiere dressed in their best florals. Here's the thing. All of Lively's claims have been disproven by the legitimate proof that Baldoni has. The question is, if he has the text exchange, doesn't Lively have it too? In this case, doesn't Lively have the outtakes where they're discussing this whole thing and the texts between them? Doesn't she know that bringing that up in her claim would only derail her entire case? Not only that, but every second one of her claims has been detrimental to her credibility because Baldoni has proof. Doesn't she have access to the same proof? And now for the speculation that's based on the facts. Reynolds is the one pushing for the lawsuit because of his fragile ego. There'd been long-standing rumors that Reynolds and Lively got together while filming Green Lantern, after which he filed for divorce from his wife, Scarlett Johansson. The couple have, however, denied any wrongdoing, suggesting that they only got to know each other while filming and got together long after the fact. Speculation over Blake and Justin's relationship started in much the same way, and when Reynolds reviewed the dailies of the film, he realized that his wife was getting uncomfortably close with a co-star yet again. This was something that irked him. He then started to come to set for every single one of Lively's scenes, implying that everything was wrong and making sure that the co-stars were kept separated at all times. There was also some speculation that maybe Lively hadn't come clean to Reynolds about all the texts she'd exchanged with him, and that's why Reynolds pushed for the lawsuit. Multiple witnesses were present when Lively was breastfeeding her child. They claimed that Baldoni didn't stare at her as she'd implied, but Reynolds wasn't there. Probably when she was relaying this to him, she spun it in a way that seemed like Baldoni was a creep. That, along with every other instance in the couple's lawsuit, seems grossly exaggerated. The fact here is that either Lively really did distort her own reality, believing that everything happened in a different way than it actually did, or she relayed everything in a grossly sexual manner to her husband later on, who pushed for the lawsuit. As for why the It Ends With Us cast seemed to favor Lively over Baldoni, this part is based on speculation too, but Baldoni claims he has evidence. The claim here is that Lively wanted to be able to write out Baldoni from the film because she wanted the rights to the sequel. The sequel would star just about everyone except Baldoni. Not just by malicious intent, but most of Ryle's work would have been done and over in the first film. Maybe that's why the cast was more likely to favor Lively. It's either that or the fact that Lively, as she pointed out, comes with a tremendous deal of influence. Again, this is all based on speculation. But some people believe that Lively's support has little to nothing to do with the actual facts of the case, and a lot more to do with the fact that she can help everyone secure more and more roles throughout Hollywood. Could that be the case? We'll have to wait and find out. Will the gag order help? Baldoni's countersuit and all the proof he provided were enough to derail Lively's career from now until forever. Along with her, Reynolds' credibility has also been shot. Right now, it seems like everyone switched sides, and Baldoni's not even halfway done with releasing evidence just yet. The only thing that made sense for the couple was to send a gag order to Friedman, stating that he'd embarked on a malicious campaign against the couple. Friedman, in response, stated that it was the couple's own doing and that they were the ones who started this whole thing by opening up the can of worms. What's coming next? We'll provide you with updates as they come, so make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you back with another video soon enough.